5 minutes after 10 o'clock, a little bit rainy out there, and from what I understand, we can expect this weather for a day.
Okay.
It's one day. The Sunshine State is the rainy state for one day, Rob.
Yeah.
You know, in 1962, I was 7 years old. My dad was a policeman in the New York City Police Department, and he was directing traffic outside Yankee Stadium. And he was hit by a car. And so the last 10 years of his career, he had been a policeman for 10 years already at that point, and then 10 more he retired in 72. But at the midway point in 62 is when he was hit by the car, and he was put indoors after that. He had some kind of an injury to his leg. And maybe it was for the better, getting off the streets when you're a policeman in a city like New York. But it was interesting because I didn't know until years later we had an interview with an author who was talking about the 1962 season of that team, the Yankees. And, of course, that's not the same stadium anymore, right? It's a new stadium, right? It's not the same one that he would have been. But anyway, so it didn't occur to me that there was probably a lot of traffic because it was one of those things that everybody went to. And now there's it's like a new generation buzz with the New York Yankees, and we're going to learn about that. Bryan Hoch is his name, Robin? On the phone, I may be mispronouncing his name. He's a journalist. He's written about the New York baseball scene for the past 2 decades. He covers the Yankees as a beat reporter for MLB.com. He's featured in Yankees Magazine. He also writes for New York Mets Inside Pitch.
Ooh, your friend will like that.
Yeah, I have a Mets friend. Bryan, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How did I do on your last name? I probably messed it up.
You did, but that's all right. It's Hoch. Rhymes with Coke.
Okay, thank you for helping me out with that. Where are you? Are you in New York right now?
I'm in Tampa. I'm here with the Yankees in spring training, so I'm down here looking out at the same weather you guys are talking about. And the Yankees have a night game tonight at Steinbrenner Field, so hopefully they'll play it.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, I can hear the accent in your voice. Are you from the Bronx?
No, I'm from Rockland County, New York, which is about an hour north of the city, but spent a lot of time, obviously, at Yankee Stadium, Shea Stadium, the old stadium that you're talking about there, although they refurbished it in the 70s. But, yeah, I spent a lot of time at the old Yankee Stadium and now the new one, too. So very familiar with the area.
So tell me who the baby bombers are. Who are the players featured in the book?
Well, I think last year when you looked at this team, a lot of people were talking about it was going to be a rebuilding year. They were working in all these young players, Aaron Judge, a right fielder, Gary Sanchez, catcher, Luis Severino, right-handed pitcher, Greg Bird at first base. And for the first time in a long time, you were looking at a Yankee team with more tomorrows than yesterdays. And the Yankees obviously had been well known for spending money on experienced free agents, and it was a plan that wasn't working for them. It hadn't translated into a World Championship since 2009. So you're seeing a new generation of Yankees players come up here. They have gone with the youth movement, and they made it within one win of the World Series last year. So it was a great story to be there on the ground floor of. You felt like the building blocks were in place for something special that was going to happen for years to come. And now expectations are sky high with this team for 2018. So they snuck up on people last year. I'm not sure if they will again this year. I think the target's on their back, but I think they're ready for the challenge.
Really? So, and somebody who's done this for 20 years, do you see the wave as it's coming? Like, can you kind of see it before the average person recognizes that something great is about to happen?
Well, and you saw it coming as far as the Yankees missed the playoffs 3 out of 4 years, which was unacceptable in Hal Steinbrenner's eyes. And so you saw changes were going to come in some form or fashion, but they were bogged down with these big contracts that were waiting to expire. Guys like Alex Rodriguez and Mark Teixeira, who wrote a great foreword for our book. And I think the turning point in the book is the trade deadline 2016 in July, when Brian Cashman, the general manager of the Yankees, has to go to Hal Steinbrenner and say, hey, look, this team is not good enough to win the World Series. I suggest that we sell off some of these veteran guys that we have and trade them for prospects, essentially raise the white flag on 2016, but that'll give us a better chance going forward. And it was a tough decision, a unpopular one in some circles, but I think that it paid dividends almost immediately in 2016, and then in 2017 it was such an exciting year, and the fans really fell in love and connected with this ball club, and I think going forward, that excitement's just going to carry over.
So when the older players were let go, were they assured that they would have some kind of financial well-being so they could, be able to find something else or go with another team in the interim?
Right. Well, these guys are. I don't think they have to worry about paying the bills. But, for example, they traded Andrew Miller, who was a left-handed pitcher. He's actually a Tampa resident, and he wanted to play for the Yankees. He loved the idea of having spring training here. He took a discount to sign a 4-year contract with the Yankees. But relief pitching was such a hot commodity that year, and they wound up trading him to Cleveland for 4 players, and he didn't want to go to Cleveland, but he wound up joining a very good Cleveland team that went to the World Series. The same with Aroldis Chapman, who went to the Cubs. Those two guys wound up facing each other in the World Series after starting the year on the Yankees roster. So the Indians and the Cubs, for example, got what they wanted out of that trade, but so did the Yankees, who were able to accelerate the rebuilding process. They got 8 prospects, put them into the farm system, and some of those guys are knocking on the door right now to get to the big leagues. So they've had the first wave of prospects come, and now they've got the second wave of kind of young 20-year-olds who are poised to become stars in New York City.
Do you know, I think it is journalists like yourself that help generate interest in a team that goes beyond statistics. I think when you're a journalist and you're writing about the players, the fans will... I mean, they will eat it up. They love hearing stories like that. So then, when they're sitting in the stands or watching it on TV, they say, this is his wife just had a baby," and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tried to capture that a lot in the book. We all see what happened between the white lines, but being there on a daily basis, you get to know these guys on a personal level. So I wanted to share those backstories in the book. And for example, Aaron Judge, who was this phenomenal talent, became this power-hitting right fielder, hit 52 home runs last year as the Rookie of the Year. This guy struggled coming up through the minor leagues. He's 6'7". He's built like a football player. There were people who didn't think that could translate to playing on a ball field, and he really did struggle when he came up to the big leagues the first time. He only hit 179. He struck out half of the time, 42 times, and 84 at-bats. And on the flight back to California, he put that batting average, 179, at the top of his iPhone. So every day he would look at it, and it would motivate him to work harder for next season. And obviously he came back and had a fantastic 2017. So we talk a lot about those stories in the books, about Gary Sanchez, who was going to 2 tryout camps a day, sometimes 3, down in the Dominican Republic as a 16-year-old, and just really showcasing himself for all these ball clubs. And Bryan Cashman, the general manager, almost had to fight the urge to throw himself in front of Sanchez when he was leaving the Yankees camp, because he was going to go across the street and work out for the Mets, and they wound up giving him $3 million, and he gave it immediately to his mom and helped her fix up their house, which really needed a lot of repairs.
See that? We love stories like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Clint Frazier, an outfielder who, same story. As soon as he got his signing bonus, the first thing he did, his parents' house was in foreclosure, so he bailed them out of that, and he wound up getting his dad a pickup truck for Christmas. So these guys, they're following their dreams and they're achieving their dreams, but it's important to remember they're more than just players. They're people behind that job too. They have a very cool job. They're in front of us, but these guys have families to think about too. So I tried to capture those.
I love that. Yeah, I love that, and I think that helps sell tickets too. I mean, I don't know how an owner of a team feels if you have a mediocre player, but he's got a charismatic personality who helps sell tickets. Does he keep him on the team or not? I don't know.
No, I think in Aaron Judge's case, this guy is as personable and charismatic as they come. I think that people fell in love with him. He's almost the next Derek Jeter in a lot of ways, and that's what to boil down the book, it's how Derek Jeter's Yankees became Aaron Judge's Yankees. And this guy, he's the face of baseball. He hits these mammoth home runs. The Yankees erected a cheering section for him in right field after 6 weeks of the season, the judges' chambers. And with a name like Judge, I think it lends itself to so many cool puns, and you can make it. They made it look like a courtroom in Yankee Stadium, and the fans are swinging the gavels and wearing the white robes, the black robes with the white wig. So very cool. It's a marketer's dream, and as a book author, it was fun to be around these guys and really get to tell their stories because there is so much interest in what's going on right now with the Yankees.
Oh, were they eager to tell their stories, or did you meet with some resistance and skepticism on their part at first?
No, they were eager, I think, or at least very cooperative. The guys were very generous with their time, and I've covered the Yankees since 2007, so I've been around for waves of this and seen the guys like Derek Jeter and Mariano Rivera walk out the door, and the beginnings of a new dynasty here. So, I mean, in Judge's case, I was there in 2013, the first day he took batting practice with the team in Oakland. He was just a draft pick out of Fresno State University, so I've been there since day one in a lot of cases, so these guys know me. They see my face every day, and I think they understood the project and what I was trying to do with it, and hopefully I told their stories well and captured what they're all about.
And how has how has this affected the caliber of the players on their farm teams? Do some of these players then skip playing for the farm teams and go right up to the big leagues because of their young age?
There's a lot of guys knocking on the door on the farm system, and that's the impressive thing about the Yankees right now is that it's not just what you saw at the big league level last year. There's more coming. And so some of these guys are getting blocked. I think that you can't have them all on your roster at the big league level, but the Yankees are so deep right now that, for example, last year in July, they needed a starting pitcher, and they were able to package 3 of these top prospects out to the Oakland Athletics and get a proven starter in Sonny Gray, who helped them down the stretch last year and will continue to help them this year. So they're so deep right now. I really think that it was a great gamble by the Yankees to go with that youth movement because it is so valuable right now at the major league level.
How did it change your job? Was it refreshing to have some of the guys? I mean, some of the guys who had been there who are no longer there, you kind of knew them inside and out. So it must have been difficult for you to come up with some kind of a new question for the guys that you've spoken to many, many times. In other words, I guess the question is, does the younger field of talent give you a refreshing position as a journalist?
That's an interesting question. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. There's only so many ways you can tell Derek Jeter's story. I think we all know it by now, by heart, and there weren't a whole lot of new angles to cover with that. So I think, it's been refreshing. I definitely getting to know these guys and just see their excitement, I think, is the coolest part because they all came up through the minor leagues together. They played together in places like Charleston and Tampa and Trenton and fought their way to the majors. And now to watch them experience it on the big stage for the first time and really become celebrities in New York City has been very cool because I remember that when these guys were 21, 22 years old and, wearing uniform number 83 in spring training camp and nobody was asking for their autographs. And now that they're these big stars that the Yankees are putting up on billboards, it's pretty cool for me to see too. So you feel like I said before, you feel like you're on the ground floor of something special that was happening here. And that's why I wanted to write this book.
And it seems like now their ego is for the team and not themselves. I mean, your book really brings flashbacks of the like the 1950s era, the Joe DiMaggios and all of those guys down there, the Mickey Mantles and stuff. They all seem to have this unequal camaraderie for their teams.
They do, and they pull for each other, which is fun. Like I said, these guys know each other. They've spent time together on buses, riding through the Carolina leagues, and really just, hanging out in hotel rooms and ordering pizzas and playing video games. I mean, they're kids, which is cool because the Yankees for a long time were players in their late 30s, a lot of times playing out the back ends of their contracts, guys who had been there, done it before, and big dollar free agents. So some of these guys are earning close to the major league minimum. I don't think that's going to that's not going to be the case for very long if they hang around, but you're here on the front nine, so to speak, of what these guys' careers are going to be, and their ceilings are sky high. So it's translated so far, but they haven't accomplished probably one fraction of what they're going to do in their careers.
Does the singling out of any one player affect the team spirit? You have a star among you, even though you're playing the game just as much as they are. Does that affect the team spirit?
I think that in a lot of cases you have the stars who are stars because they're good, so they're helping the team.
Right.
For example, they love watching Judge hit, but Gary Sanchez is more of a kind of introverted personality. He's a power-hitting catcher, and he hits the ball as hard as anybody, but he's not really looking for the spotlight. So this spring training, you've had Judge and Giancarlo Stanton putting on the shows and batting practice, and these are the guys that everybody wants to shoot video of and take pictures of and get autographs of. And meanwhile, a guy like Gary Sanchez can just go about his business quietly, and he may be the best hitter on the team for my money. So I think that it pays benefits in that way, that you can just quietly go about your work, focus on what you need to do, and get your job done at the ballpark and not have to deal with a lot of the extracurriculars of it.
I don't know if the word irony is the correct word here. I don't know what the word would be, but you are a member of the team. It seems like you're as much beloved a part of that group of talent as any of the guys who actually pick up the bat and hit the ball. It seems like they embrace you, and you love hanging out with them.
I don't know if that's true. They haven't given me a uniform yet, but and I'm certainly not in their pay scale. But it has been really enjoyable to be around this group. I mean, when you've covered baseball as long as I have, you know the difference between a good clubhouse and a bad clubhouse. And the Yankees have something special going right now. These guys, they're really fun to be around. There's not a bad apple in the group, and I think that translates onto the field. I think that's why they play well, but I think that's why the fans have embraced them, and why fans are so excited for the year to come.
I wanted to ask about politics, but I don't mean politics as in the president or kneeling for the national. I don't mean that kind of politics.
Okay, good.
I mean the politics of the sport itself. Now I lost my train of thought. After I explained that, I forgot what I was going to ask. But I was wondering about that part of it. Is there a politics in sports?
I think there are, in certain ways, yeah. I think that there's certainly a hierarchy between the front office and the dugout and what's going on the field. And, we capture some of that in the book as far as this is Bryan Cashman's 20th year now with the Yankees, and he's gone through the wars. I mean, having George Steinbrenner as an owner back in the day, it was a tough environment to be in. You had a massive turnover in that office. Guys were getting fired and let go almost every other day. There were some seasons where Steinbrenner would go through 3 managers in a year. 1982, that happened. So I think there's more stability now, and Hal Steinbrenner is more of a dollars and cents guy. He'd look at the bottom line and knows to keep. The way I put it about Hal Steinbrenner is he's a businessman who's smart enough to know what he doesn't know, and his focus is more on running the Yankees as a corporation, and he lets the baseball operations guys make the decisions. And so I think that when you look at this 2018 roster, it's got Bryan Cashman's fingerprints all over it, and so he's been trusted with the ability to make the moves he wants to make. And I think that was a big turning point for the Yankees, because you used to have a lot of interference from upstairs, and George Steinbrenner would say, you have to go trade this player, or we have to sign that free agent. And maybe it wasn't always the smartest baseball move, but it got the headlines. And so I think what the Yankees did here, they made some unpopular decisions in the time, but 18 months down the line, they're really paying off.
I have a local question for you. We are in Ocala, if you didn't know where the radio station is. And Ocala was considering having a Yankees, like a mini stadium. So what were we going to have?
Yeah.
A few years
for the farm team.
A few years ago. And it was, I don't think it was ever actually voted on, which is one of the complaints people had. Were you aware of that at that time, or did that matter to anybody?
I did hear some rumblings about that. I don't think it ever got out of the planning stages, but the Steinbrenner family has roots in Ocala. They've got a horse farm up there, and they've got a really nice piece of property from what I've been told. So, I think that there is a connection there between the Yankees and the Ocala area. I think that the Steinbrenners certainly have traversed that highway many times to go between there and Tampa, but what's really interesting is you have this major team, the most recognizable brand in professional sports, based out of New York City, and their base is in the state of Florida. So really all of the decisions that are made and everything of importance comes out of that 4th floor in Steinbrenner Field in Tampa. So I almost feel like it's a second home when the Yankees come down here, because we've spent a lot of time in Florida over the years, and certainly years of my life.
And the work that you have done personally, sir, is much revered by other journalists. They speak very fondly of you and your work.
Yeah, that was very humbling to hear things from guys like, I really respect, like Ken Rosenthal and Bill Madden and Bob Clappish. I mean, just Mike Lupica, a lot of guys that I grew up reading in New York City. So to have them praise the book and basically pat you on the back and say you did a good job, and not only that, but to have the stamp of approval for some of the former players, like not only Judge, who's on the current team, but Bernie Williams, Nick Swisher, Mark Teixeira. These guys are Yankee icons. So to have been in their face, so to speak, for lack of a better term, asking them questions day to day, I think to know that they appreciated the work that I did and respected it on some level is very humbling and very cool.
I think we should put it on the schedule, Robin, this year. We'll go to a Yankees game.
Okay, we will do that. We will do that.
We'll go up to the Bronx and take that in. So, okay, I'm sorry.
It just seems like all of that respect for other teams is very healthy among the fans, too. I mean, Larry has this friend who lives in New York who has been a Mets fan since day one, and then he knows people that are Yankees fans and knows people that are Red Sox fans, and they revere their team so much, but they also have the respect for the other teams.
Sure. I think baseball's better when those rivalries are strong. You know, there was a few years there where either the Yankees would be bad and the Red Sox would be great, or vice versa, and it's just not as fun. I think that when you have that excitement, whether you're at Yankee Stadium or Fenway Park, and those two historic rivals are on the field and they're both playing well and the games are played well and fans are really into it, it's such a special atmosphere. And so I look forward to going up to Fenway Park this year and seeing what it's like, because it's going to be a dogfight. It really is. It's such a passionate atmosphere, I think.
Oh.
And, I can't wait to see what it's going to be like when the Yankees go up to Boston for the first time. And they played each other 19 times this year, so we're going to have no shortage of opportunities to watch those two teams go head-to-head, and I really can't wait for it.
I think maybe that's where my political question wanted to go. It was about the loyalty to the team. Every morning we speak to a gentleman from the local Life South Blood Bank, and he is a diehard Boston Red Sox fan, and he didn't want to have anything to do with this conversation today, even though he could talk baseball way better than Robin and I can. But yeah, there's definitely a loyalty to the team.
Well, tell him the Red Sox are going to be very good this year. Let's remember, as much hype as there is around the Yankees this year, they're not the defending world champions. The Houston Astros are, and they're not even the defending AL East champions, because the Red Sox took the division by 2 games. So the Yankees have some ground to make up. I think that they've got a very formidable roster, but so does Boston. And like I said, can't wait to see those two teams go head-to-head, because it's going to be a lot of fun.
I must tell you, I really enjoyed this interview. I never know ahead of time whether I will or not, and you've made it great. The book is getting really good reviews on Amazon. Yeah, again, it's called The Baby Bombers by Bryan Hoch. Hoch is how Bryan spells his last name. Bryan, by the way, if you need that part. I found it on Amazon. Do you have a website you want to recommend?
Well, you can find me on Amazon at Barnes & Noble. I'm on Twitter at Bryan Hoch, BryanHoch, and Yankees.com is my day job. So, anything that's going on with the Yankees, you can find out about it there. And like I said, the Yankees have a game tonight at 6:35, and I'll be there.
Nice.
I mean, we should come down to spring training. Yeah,
we should.
That'd be fun.
We will.
Thank you, Bryan. That was fun. Very fun interview.
No, I enjoyed it very much. Thank you for having me.
All right, we will be right back.
Hi, I'm Russ Moore with Pack Mill. Our relationship with WOCA started in 2009. WOCA is